So we're a network of 62 organizations across Europe. For us, Europe is bigger than just the European Union. You can see it on the map here, from 36 countries. So it's a very broad network with a very diverse set of member organizations. The EFCSN itself is an association registered in France, so we're officially French, but as you can tell from the map, we're very much European. Um, One thing that's core to the EFCSN's mission is to uphold the highest standards in fact-checking and information integrity work. We have the European Code of Standards for Independent Fact-Checking Organizations, which we sort of manage and where we ensure that every of our members organization complies with that code. The code was written jointly by all European fact-checking organizations with the input from academia, from civil society. So it's a very well-written, comprehensive code. That sets the high standards in terms of methodology, ethics, transparency, etc. So this is what we do at our core, and every member organization that you saw on the map before has undergone a very in-depth assessment process where independent reviewers assess the organizations against this code, and they undergo this process every 2 years. So we can be sure that every organization that is part of our membership does adhere to these standards on a permanent basis. That's one thing we do, upholding standards. There's four other things that we focus a lot on. One's advancing fact checking, which is a very vague term, but essentially what we try to do is enable our members to do the best that they can do and sort of to leverage the entire community because fact checking is greater than the sum of its parts. So we compile, for example, insights and data from our members, make them accessible to stakeholders. We're currently working on a big database project that's going to go live in the fall. So if you're interested in databases and information integrity resources, stay tuned. Another big thing we do is advocating on behalf of information integrity, mostly in Brussels because we're a European association. This is based on the experience that a lot of stakeholders that have a lot of sway over communication spaces, you can guess, I mean, platforms, um, have a lot to say about digital regulation and what's happening on their platforms to policymakers. And we think sometimes what they say to them has to be counterbalanced with something that's sort of how we say it. Let's put it that way. So it's in our view important to speak up for information integrity. And I can tell you from personal experience, if you go to policymakers and say like, look, I don't just speak for my own organization. I speak for 62 organizations, some of them very big media houses across Europe. People listen, and this is sort of one important takeaway that I have ever since I started running the or managing the EFCSN is that the network itself to have that at your back when you're speaking to policymakers is super important. The fourth thing we do is fostering community. So we convene our members. We do conferences. We're co-hosting together with the IFCN, with Delphi and LRT, Global Fact in Vilnius in June. If you still want to, registrations are open until 1st of June, end of day. So if you want, there are still a couple of tickets left. So if you want to join us in Vilnius, you're welcome. And the fifth thing we do is grant making and grant management. So the EFCSN itself doesn't have like a ton of money. We get our core funding from the fees that our members pay us. But what we do is we fundraise for our members so that you usually give out more grants and support to our members than what we take in membership fees. And we try to tailor our grant making and grant management in a way that it's impactful and has little administrative overhead because I think there's especially the grant making and the project funding cycles sometimes come with externalities and downsides that we didn't want to replicate in our own processes. So that's what we focus on there. One important thing about the EFCSN is that we're a very much a member-driven association. So we're governed democratically. I'm the coordinator, so run the day-to-day management. I'm a full-time employee of the EFCSN, but I can only do what our members allow us to do. Um, so we have our assembly in which every member organization holds one vote. This assembly elects the governance body, basically 11 leaders from member organization, and they lead and oversee the EFCSN's activities for a 3-year term. And that's sort of the group that I report to on a weekly basis. And we have very detailed statutes that organize and structure our work and what we do and what we can and cannot do. One or 3 points that I wanted to leave you with why I think I know that in Latin America, with Latin Chaquea, there's sort of work that goes in a very similar direction, like what we did or do with the EFCSN, which I think is brilliant, that you're doing this because it does give you a louder voice. It does allow you to share resources. That's sometimes very practical. For example, what we did for our members is we negotiated a deal with AFP so that our members, those that want to, can get access to AFP materials, photos, videos to use in their reporting. That wouldn't be accessible to small organizations if they were by themselves, but if you have a collective, you can sort of tackle these things. So that's collective bargaining power that we're also trying to leverage towards bigger stakeholders. Think about who has the most power over information spaces to bring this collective power into negotiations, into discussions, be it on a policy level or an economic level. That's what we're trying to do, and that's why I would encourage not just the fact-checking communities across the world, but sort of the broader information integrity communities in various world regions to explore this as an option. And now my voice is gone, so I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks.